Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
I'm Nick Cosgrove, and this is the Draft Corner.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft.
This is a pick about upside. This is the kind of passion he has.
There has been a trade involving this fifth pick in the draft. The New Orleans Saints select Ricky Williams.
Listen, this isn't just another name on the card. This is living proof that the dream is possible.
Hello, and welcome to the Draft Corner. I'm Nick Cosgrove. I got into the draft probably sort of a few years after I got into the NFL, wanting to know where the new players would come from, and that was an avenue that got me into college football. I've loved the draft onwards and just get more and more into it every year. And if you've watched me on the College Football UK podcast, you'll know that come the new year, I have a draft board out. I'm constantly all over mocks and who's doing what and who's being mocked by who. And so this pod is a love affair for me. I want to say thank you very much to Fletch, who runs the AAW Network, who's given me this thing for me to do. I love it. It's great. So thank you to Fletch for that. The AAW Network. Go and follow us on social media. Go and join our Discord. Come and speak to us on there. During Saturdays on college football, there'll be live chats going on. So come and join us there. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Rate us amazing. Whether you're on YouTube or whether you listen to us in an app, whatever, just rate it brilliantly and we'll be very appreciative. Any links that you need for this episode or in general, they will be either below in YouTube or in the app. Let's get started. So the plan is over the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, as the college football season gets started, we will give you a preview of players by position of top 6 at this precise moment, based on all their tape to date, of where I personally think the top six players are. Now, I would like to state that this is based on everything we have seen up until now. This is not a projection of what is going to happen, because we have an entire year of college football to go. There will be players who, after this year, drop out and defer to the 28 draft. There will be players that are injured and end up missing most of the season, and so they won't be in. So ultimately, this is just a starting position. This is where we are right now. And today, I'm going to reveal my top 6 quarterbacks, and I'm going to reveal my top 6 running backs. By all means, get in touch and tell me what you think. If you don't like the list, that's fine. If you would have the list in a different order, that's fine. You are entitled to your opinion. It may be right, it may be wrong. My opinion might be right, might be wrong. That's the whole point. Next week, we will do tight ends and wide receivers. The following week, we will do the offensive line. As a former university left tackle, that's what I love. That's my position, left tackle. That's what I really do enjoy watching. Moving on from there, we will move over to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll get going on that. By the time we've done all those, probably I think it'll be time for a mock draft. So we'll get a mock draft in based on what we're seeing so far. The college season will be a few weeks old, and we'll then be able to start going through what we've seen up until this point, and we'll be able to make some assumptions on what we're seeing. As I said in the trailer, we'll talk about the big games, any big performances, any standout players, And I'll also try and give you a sleeper every episode. Now, a sleeper's not necessarily somebody who's going to be absolutely amazing, but a sleeper is somebody that you should keep an eye on because I think he will climb the board. And it's worth being aware of this guy because I think he's got talent beyond where he's sitting now. And that is essentially what is this last year of college football. There is a lot of movement in the draft between now and halfway through the season. There will be movement. So we will go from there and we'll see how we go. I'm going to stop blabbering because I told myself that I would do this in less than half an hour. So we'll get on to it. Quarterbacks. Right. Okay. So I have a list of 6 quarterbacks here. I will start with 6 and I will move up to 1. Only 2 of these quarterbacks have to come out in this year's draft. The other 4 could quite happily defer until 2028. And this is what I was saying. We don't know who's going to be in the draft yet. The draft is draft countdown. 255 days away as of recording. That's 36,864 average performing games of Tetris. If you're not very good at Tetris, you'll probably get a few more games in. If you're really good at Tetris, then you'll probably get less. 16,756 episodes of Friends. Friends has never been something for me. I'm not really a Friends person. Adam on the College Football UK podcast, he loves a movie. He loves his movie marathon timing. So for Adam, 540 views of the extended edition of Lord of the Rings. I don't think I've seen the extended Lord of the Rings edition since it came out. I'm not watching a 4-hour film. It's not happening. The draft is on Thursday, the 29th of April in Washington. Right, we will get started straight away. So, QB number 6, drum roll, Darian Mensah at Miami. Now, he had 2 fantastic years at Tulane, and then he moved on to Duke, where last year he won the ACC conference. How Duke won the conference, I don't know. 5th tiebreak, I think. His stats were 3,973 yards passing, 108.5 quarterback rating with a pass completion rate of 66.8%. He threw for 34 touchdowns with 6 interceptions. Now, Miami needed a quarterback, and so he got out of his deal with Duke and went to Miami, of which there was an argument and a legal process followed, but hey, he's at Miami. Now, for me, what I like about Mensah is I love his arm. He can vary the speed at which he's throwing. If he needs to throw it slowly, he can do. You see some of those quarterbacks and they will throw an absolute missile and it'll get there because they've got the power in the arm, but it gets there too quickly because the receiver's not there. And I think Mensah does read the route really well and know how much he has to put on the ball. And that in turn, he actually has really good ball placement as well. He tends to put the ball where either his receiver can get it or nobody can get it. He doesn't tend to put his receiver in a point where he's got to go up and lose a contesting battle. I mean, yes, his receiver will lose catch contest, but he tends to make sure that where he's putting the ball means his receiver has a 60-40 in his favor as opposed to the other way around. His anticipation of where a challenge is coming from, if a defensive end has broken around the side, so his peripheral vision does seem to be really good, and he does seem to anticipate when the hit's coming, giving him the most amount of time he needs to either secure the ball for the hit, or to throw it away, or to throw it down the route that he's supposed to. These are all traits that are absolutely admirable, excellent, fantastic. But he's a college player. He does have issues. His frame, he's 6'3" and 205 pounds. He's got a very slight frame. Now, yes, he's okay at the moment playing college ball, but when he gets up to the pros, when the defensive ends are bigger and faster, if he takes too many hits, I don't know how durable he's going to be. We're seeing this issue with Tua all through his Miami career. The amount of hits that Tua took for his smaller frame has really affected him. And as a human being, just watching another human take a massive hit, I don't want to see Mensah in that sort of position. So he does need to bulk up a little bit. He needs to get stronger, but you don't want that to be at the detriment of his skills. You don't want to be so big in your shoulders and in your chest that affects your arm ability. So he will have his coaches. He will have people to listen to, but that is something of concern, how slight his frame is based going forward. Now, as I said, he tends to put the ball where either his receiver or nobody can get it. That in turn has a downside, because if his receiver can't get it, he's throwing the ball away and he's wasting possession. His ball protection does need to be better. If he can't complete a pass, he needs to secure the ball or he needs to throw it away. He needs to make sure that ball protection gets better. Because while he's only got 6 interceptions, there have been times certainly last season, where that ball was pretty close to being intercepted, or it was batted down but not caught. And I just think he needs to be aware of that situation moving forward, because again, as we get to a higher level and you get to the NFL, there will be corners and safeties that don't give you that opportunity. And if you put them something where they can intercept it, they will do so. Summarizing Mensah, I think this year at Miami is very crucial for him, because he is one of those quarterbacks who is having to come out this year. He is one of these two that has to come out this year. And I think he needs a great season. He had 2 good years at Tulane. He had a good year at Duke. But Miami is a different kettle of fish. It's another step up. And I believe he needs a good season this year to maintain his draft stock. I haven't gone deep enough yet to decide whereabouts in the draft he's going to go. But I do not expect it to be a first or a second right now. A whole year of college football can change that. And it wouldn't surprise me if he has a good year, his stock rises. That's how it works. So it's a crucial year for him this year, and I hope he has a great year, apart from when Miami come to South Bend, in which case I hope he has the worst game of his season. And yeah, sorry about that. Moving on. Number 5, Julian Sain of Ohio State. I nearly said the Ohio State. Oh God, Fletcher'd kill me. Anyway, 6'1", 208 pounds. Again, like Darian Mensah, slight frame. Probably could do with getting a bit bigger. He's got a QBR of 123.5. He threw for 3,610 yards with a passing completion of 77%, which was the highest of any quarterback in college football. He threw for 32 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Now, Julian Sain was a 5-star recruit across the board. Every top school in college football wanted him. And funny enough, Alabama were the team to win that race. He wanted to play for Nick Saban. And when Saban retired, Julian Sain transferred out because he was joining Alabama to pay for Saban. Saban wasn't going to be there. He didn't want to be there. And so he went to Ohio State. And since then, he's flourished. I talked about how Mensah placed the ball well. If Mensah places the ball well, then Julian Sain places the ball better. He is absolutely fantastic. He has the best completion percentage in the QB class. No QB comes close to 77%. He reads the game really well. He reads the game quickly. He goes through his options and he makes his decision. All that upstairs, the brain upstairs in doing that is fantastic, because you hear about the likes of Tom Brady, who said that by the time he'd been in the league 10 years, he'd seen everything and he learned anything that was new as it came up. But the game slowed down because he knew what he was seeing, and defenses were struggling to hide what was going on. You know, Patrick Mahomes is beginning to say the same thing, that the game is starting to slow down for him. I think Josh Allen has said something similar. So I think probably at the college level, Julian Sain is getting a little bit of that. He is going through his reads really well, and that is fantastic, and he will benefit from that. Now, his footwork is very quick, very good. He plants his foot in the right place at the right time, allowing him to throw through his body as opposed to just his arm. The footwork also allows him for a stronger stance and a stronger base. Again, talking about his 208-pound frame. Whereas Mensah is getting hit a lot, Julian Sain's base is allowing him to take those hits, but not necessarily take them in such a way that they are going to be an issue. He's got a good base underneath him. Now, some of the downsides, yes, he needs to fill out, same as Mensah. That's not a surprise. Most college kids need to fill out as they come out of the league. That's nothing against him per se. One of the downsides to Julian Sain is he likes structure, and for someone who's got OCD, I do not criticize that at all. I am not going to criticize a man who likes structure. I love structure, but he has his plays, and that's it. He creates very little off script. If something doesn't go right, fair enough, but there's no sort of thinking on the fly, you know, doing something out of the ordinary, because he is very sort of linear about how he sees the game. He has his reads, 1, 2, 3, boom, right, throw it away. That is fine, but there will be times when he needs to create himself, and he needs to get better at doing that at this level. He doesn't do it enough. Now, that might be because he doesn't need to do it, fair enough, but it's a skill he needs to learn anyway. Excuse me. I talked about how he goes through his reads. If you can pressure him and rush him, that is how you beat Julian Sain. As far as I can tell from everything that I've watched, the way to beat Julian Sain is to rush him. Don't let him get through his reads. Don't let him command the ball. If you, as a defensive end or as a defense in general, if you can attack the QB and get to him quickly so that he doesn't have chance to do that, it puts him on the back foot, and it gives you a better chance as the defense of producing in that play. That is something that he's going to have to be aware of, because again, as you go up a level and you go into the NFL, you don't have as much time as you do in college. Everything is quicker. And if you can't go through all your reads at college level and you get rushed at college level and it bothers you, it will bother you at the top level. So that is something Julian Sain needs to improve on. Now, from the aspect of, again, as I said, a former tackle, from my point of view, as a tackle, if I know that my QB needs more time because he doesn't like being rushed, that puts more pressure on me. Because if I'm protecting a right-handed quarterback and therefore I'm on the blind side, I've got to do so much more work up top on the line because I've got to give him that extra half a second or extra second that he may need. And he, as a quarterback, he puts more demand not just on the left tackle, not just on the right tackle, but the whole line in general. They have to be switched on, and it just adds more pressure. And you're asking you're asking your offensive line to do more, and he will find that that is something that needs work. He, as I said, he is one of these that, having redshirted in 2024, he is eligible for another year after this 2026 college season. Not to mention, there are legal cases at the moment going on with this 5-5 that's coming in, and those that are in college before 5-5 is active are taking legal action and winning. So the fact that he has a redshirt year doesn't actually mean that the 5-5 will affect him. He is entitled to another year of college football should he wish. If he has an absolute fantastic season, he may choose to come out, but given that he had to wait behind Will Howard, I think, yeah. Given that he had to wait behind him for a year, the more tape, the more experience that you get at the college level, the better it is. As a generalization, if I was in college, I would stay in as long as I could, because there's nothing wrong with getting more and more experience at college before you go up. It's not a rush. With NIL these days, you can make more money in college anyway. And I think you're going to start seeing a trend anywhere where more players stay in college. Moving on. We're now going to talk about somebody who is going to split the camp. This guy, he may be high on your list. He may not even be in your list. And he is Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. For me, number 4, Trinidad Chambliss. He is the second of the 2 players that have to come out this year. He's 6'1". He's 200 pounds. His stats last year: 3,957 passing yards, QBR of 127.7. His pass completion rate was 66.1. He threw for 22 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Chambliss drove Ole Miss. He was the absolute engine that drove that school, and I think he was fully deserved of all the plaudits he got. Had he not been granted an extra year with the legal case that he put forward, he would be in the NFL already. No doubt at the Browns, because they collect quarterbacks like they're going out of fashion anyway. But he had medical respiratory issues early on in his career. He didn't get a red shirt from the NCAA when he felt he deserved one. He took them to court for that. He won. He got his red shirt, and therefore he was allowed an extra year of eligibility. So this is Trinidad Chambliss's last year at Ole Miss. And we will see him in the NFL draft. Chambliss can move. Boy, can this man move. He has rare top speed for the position. You don't tend to see QBs with this kind of speed. And with that, it comes the ability to open up avenues, because with the speed that he's got, both off the line and top speed, he can run through and around situations. The opportunity to get away from an oncoming defender quickly allows for so many plays to open up in the playbook, and there will be plays where he's expected to run out of the pocket to the right or to the left, but then throw it elsewhere. Most people will look at it as a play that's broken down and he's just trying to create the best. Some of those plays are designed that way. So his speed is amazing. I talked about Mensah, and I talked about how he had a fantastic arm when it came to putting the right kind of pace on the throw. When it comes to Chambliss, his longer throws are missiles. He can throw it long, he can throw it hard, and he can throw it fast. If you give him a deep down receiver who just takes off, he will hit that receiver. The problem on the flip side of that is his shorter throws do need work. He needs to slow those down a bit. They're coming at you can see, especially one of the games last year, he threw a short pass just to the F tight end, and it came at the tight end so quickly that it literally went through his hands, hit his chest, fell to the floor. Excuse me. And I think, whether that's because he was rushed, didn't look like it, but yeah, the longer you ask him to throw, the faster and the harder he'll throw it. But his shorter throws need some work. He does protect the ball well. When you look at the running backs, who we'll look at later, he tucks that ball hard in his elbow, up in his shoulder, and he runs. He places the ball well when he passes, as we talked about with Mensah, and that's a fantastic trait. You secure the ball. As from a Patriots fan point of view, one of the things Bill Belichick used to say is, if you can't protect the ball, you can't be on the field. And if you drop the ball, he quite often benched you, and you never saw action again. So protecting the ball is one of the fundamental pieces of the game, whether you are a quarterback, running back, or anybody. So the fact that he does that well, fantastic, great. At 200 pounds, he needs to bulk up. Same as Mensah, same as Sayin. And to be honest, he can't bulk up too much without losing that speed. That is something that you have to find the right balance for. You have to get stronger, you have to get more powerful, you have to bulk up a little bit, but your top end speed is an absolute desire. Don't lose that. So there is a level of there's a level that he needs to find that matches both. He's got to find that sweet spot between the two. Sorry, my brain went, but I couldn't find the word that I wanted. When he does run, and you can see on various YouTube clips, when he does run, he always tries to run towards the sideline. If he's running downfield, he has an extreme reluctance to slide. Now, yes, there are the odd occasions when you can slide into a challenge and get seriously hurt. I think about at the NFL level, there was Trevor Lawrence when he slid into, I believe it was a Bills defender, and there was a head-to-head clash. But yeah, if Trinidad Chambliss doesn't start sliding more, he opens himself to injury because he's going to get hit hard up high, and his desire to get out of play to not be hit, great, brilliant. But just, again, I refer to him, just ask Tua what it's like being hit constantly. He needs to get better at sliding. Maybe go and play some baseball. Slide to first base or whatever. Practice. I think one of the desires that Chambliss has for throwing far is he's not getting through some of his reads. There are times when there was one game last year where he had his F guy cut across, but cut across late, so a bit deeper, and he hadn't got through that process because he'd started at his X, gone to his Y, he was waiting for his Y to break, and by the time his Y broke and he threw, the F was free cutting across and he didn't see him. He needs to get through his reads quicker. I think that's probably something that will be coached, but he has to take that coaching on board. He does have potential, probably a very high potential. His limits, as I've talked about them, are physical, so they can be sorted. But you're not taking Trinidad Chambers as a starter. No. He is a QB you take for the future. Now, you look at I'm not gonna get into comps and who should go where because that's far too early for that. But he will not be in a position to start. He will need time as a backup behind somebody to coach the issues that he has, learn the other aspects of the game, and so he's probably looking at somewhere that has a starter at the moment. Moving on. We are down to number 3, CJ Carr, from Notre Dame, the mighty Fighting Irish. 6'3", 210 pounds, had a QBR of 115.3. His pass completion rating was 66.6. Now, I've left his yards out deliberately here. He threw for only 24 touchdowns and only for 2,741 yards, which was a full 1,200 less than Chambliss, another 1,100 less than Sayin, and 1,200 less than Mensah. The reason Carr threw for less is he had Jeremiah Love last year. He had Jeremiah Love and he had Jaden Price, and both of those running backs went in the first round this year. And so I think while Notre Dame stayed true to the run game last year and they ran heavy on Love, who was good in the pass game, so the passes that Carr did make were short ones to Love. That affected the amount of yards that he was actually throwing. Now, CJ Carr's a 3rd-generation college guy. I believe his dad and his granddad both played for the Wolverines, I think. He redshirted in 2024, which was the year that Riley Leonard ran Notre Dame to the championship game. And along with Jeremiah Love and Jaden Price, those three, it was all run that year. And straight away in the national championship game against Ohio State, they ran it right down Ohio State's throat for a touchdown straight off, and that was as good as it got. CJ Carr this summer was voted a standout player in the Manning camp, and this year there was Arch Manning was there, Marshall Manning was there. Marshall Manning is Peyton's son, by the way. Plus a variety of quarterbacks that were invited. CJ Carr was voted standout player. He has a reliable release. The ball comes out clean. It doesn't tend to wave far from where it's supposed to be. He's got good footwork. His pocket movement is fluid, and he seems comfortable under pressure. He reads the game well. He reads the game effectively. He tends to make the right decision at the right time, and he does show good ball protection. And these are all wins. Great, fantastic. Sounds like a great QB. However, we talked about Julian Sain and the pressure he puts on his offensive line, making them give him more time so that he's not rushed. CJ Carr does rely on a strong pocket. If the tackles can bend round and protect him for longer and create that strong pocket, almost like what Brady had at the Patriots, you will get the best out of CJ Carr. When he is pressured, his throws show that. They tend to be a little high, they tend to be a little wide, and I think he is one of these players that likes, like Julian saying, likes to go through, have the time to actually make the right decision. As I said, he's intelligent enough to make that decision. He just needs the time to do it. Again, like Julian saying, he creates very little off script. He's not really one of those players who creates something out of nothing when it's not working. He has his options, and if that's not working, right, fine. That will need improving. I have no doubt that Marcus Freeman and the team at Notre Dame will do that, because for the CFB UK pod the other week, I did a top 10 coaches, and I placed Marcus Freeman very high at number 2. And I took some criticism for that, and that's fine. People can call me a homer. That's okay. That's fine. I genuinely think Marcus Freeman is one of the best QB coaches and head coaches in the league today. The amount of NFL teams that were after him for the head coaching position says how highly rated he is. So I have no doubt that CJ Carr will benefit from Marcus Freeman's teaching. I think CJ Carr, like Julian saying, is another one who could benefit from deferring. I think that if Carr stays and doesn't come out till 2028, I think you will see a better CJ Carr at the pro level. And I think you will possibly see, without touch wood, I think if he defers to 2028, I think CJ Carr could be the number 1 pick. Certainly the number 1 QB. But he needs more time at college. He needs to play more. And I think he needs to defer. I'd love for him to defer, because then, Notre Dame get him for an extra year. The one more thing I would note on CJ Carr is this year he doesn't have Jeremiah Love. He doesn't have Jaden Price. I think that you could see a very different CJ Carr in that he will be asked to throw more. He will be asked to do more. And I think that will be to his benefit, providing he can do what he's asked. Moving on, we're now into the top 2. And no doubt you've guessed who the top 2 are, given that there are 2 names that should have been in this list, and I haven't yet mentioned them. So the question is, which position do we find Arch Manning, and which position do we find Dante Moore? Place your bets. My number 2 quarterback is Arch Manning out of Texas. Now, this decision it's so hard. If you take the name out of it, it does make it a little bit easier, but that's not always possible. Starting with Arch Manning, 6'4", 219 pounds. He's built really well. QBR rating of 100.1, threw for 3,163 yards, which, while is 400 more than CJ Carr threw, is still significantly less than the other guys were throwing for. His completion rate was low, though. Lowest of everyone in this group. As I said, Mensah's was 66.8. Julian Sains was the highest at 77. Trinidad was at 66.1. Carr was at 66.6. Manning's was at 61.4. That needs to be better. You cannot expect a top QB to be throwing for less than, I would say, 65. Certainly. He threw for 26 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Yes, he's a Manning, and yes, his name will get open doors, but his name will only take him so far. He needs to have the skills and the tape to back it up. It's a big year for him. He redshirted in 23 and he played second fiddle to Quinn Ewers in 24. So we've only really seen him as a starter last year. So as we get to the point of at the end of this season, we will have seen 2 years of starting tape from him. And that's providing he doesn't get injured. I hope he doesn't. Wouldn't wish that on him. But we're only 2 years of starting tape, which is a concern. Same with Carr, same with Sain. You would like to think that these guys will defer to 28. He's an absolute fantastic athlete. Not knocking him for that. He's got good speed. He sets his feet well. We talked about footwork when it came to Chambliss. And when he has the time to throw and he has the time in the pocket, he does show a clean release. It's not coming, the ball's not coming out pointed the wrong direction, if you like. If you want to get the ball high, you sort of point it upwards so the wing goes under it. Whereas if you if you point it upwards so that the wing gets under it, then it goes high. Obviously, if you point it downwards and so the wing goes over it, then you throw it low. He tends to hit that perfectly. If he wants that high pass, it tends to come out high. He's going back to his athlete. He's got great pocket movement, both laterally and vertically. What I like about Manning is he doesn't panic. We talked about the other QBs and how sometimes they rush their decisions if they're being rushed in the pocket. Manning doesn't. Well, I can only think that is just pure family tutelage. When you've got Peyton and Eli on your shoulders helping you, I can only assume that is where that is coming from. This guy, I don't want to say he's got ice in his veins, but he really does not panic at all. If you look at where he was a year ago and you look to now, you can visibly see the improvement that a year of playing has done. And I have no doubt that if he plays all year, we will see a better Arch Manning at the end of the season than we do now. But as I said, it would be my not recommendation, because who am I to tell him what to recommend to anybody? But I would like to see Arch Manning come back and play another year of college football. He does need to improve his throwing accuracy in his shorter game. The longer the throw, the more accurate it tends to be, which is reverse back. You tend to find that most people will throw a more accurate pass the shorter distance that they're throwing, but Manning seems to be the other way around. I don't know whether he's this is an oversight or whether this is him going through his reads and a preference, but he tends to look for the big throw, the big throw downfield, as opposed to that short completion. He's looking for that 20, 30 yard gain rather than that 5 yard gain that's just out there. That will hopefully get sorted with time. I talked about how he's got good pocket movement, both vertically and horizontally, actually. When he doesn't set his base, when he doesn't have time to get his footwork set, you tend to see a quarterback should really have an A stance. You've got your front foot and you've got your back foot going up to your groin, and it should be really that A frame. What you find with Manning is when he's been rushed and he hasn't got time to set properly, rather than it be that, it's a bit narrower, almost like a slightly skew-whiffed two vertical lines. It's just not quite out like that. So he tends to have a very narrow one as opposed to a wider one. And that can affect his release at times. It doesn't happen all the time. Beginning of the season last year against Ohio State, it happened quite a few times. There were a few throws I think he probably wanted back in that game. You saw it early on when Ohio State attacked him early. His stance was quite narrow when he was throwing. In summary, with given his family connections, given his name, there is no surprise that his trajectory in college football is astronomical. It is high, and most of everything that I see that is not wrong with Arch but needs work is all coachable, and I have no doubt that while he's not my number one QB in the class, he may well belong at number one for a lot of people, and that's fine. Moving on, my number one is Dante Moore out of Oregon. 6'3", 206 pounds, QBR rating of 102.2. Sorry, threw for 3,685 yards with a 71.8% pass completion rate. He threw for 30 touchdowns with only 10 interceptions. Okay. So Dante Moore originally committed to Oregon in 2023. He then flipped his commitment to UCLA, which is essentially what same did with Alabama and Ohio State when Saban retired. He had an underwhelming year at UCLA, returned back to Oregon in 24, sat behind the starter, whose name has gone out my head. Oh my, that's terrible. Anyway, and then this time last year, inherited the starting role in 2025. So Dante Moore is again another QB that could stay beyond this year. I hope he does, because I think that would benefit him. He's got good throwing rhythm. His release can come out snappy, quite quick. That I like. I love everything about Dante Moore. His poise, his attitude. He reads the game really well. I think what he does better than the others is he diagnoses the coverage of the defenses a little better. This goes back to what we said about the pro quarterbacks and the game slowing down for them after they've seen all that defenses can show them after 10 years. Dante Moore is reading. I was going to say Manning then. Dante Moore is reading those defensive coverages really well. So I think from that standpoint, he's probably ahead of everybody in the way that he sees the opposition. because of that, he's disguising his throws coming out of his hand. He's seeing a particular set of defensive coverage. He's almost reading like they're going to go and do that. Okay, so I'm going to throw the ball like this, so it'll look like it's doing that, but really I'm doing that. That's where he is, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think a couple of those interceptions he probably wants back. But it does make, especially downfield for the corners and the safeties of the defense, it does make it harder to read what he's going to do with the throw disguising. One of the downsides to Dante Moore is his run game. It's not the greatest. He tends to he is that old. We've watched as QBs have changed over the years. You've had the pocket passers, the Bradys, the Peyton Mannings, the Eli Mannings, the Kirk Cousins, if you like. You've had these pocket passers who are sort of rooted to the pocket. You've then got this new sort of hybrid style QB, the likes of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, that can do both jobs. And they are bringing a whole new dimension to the QB game at the top level. You've then got the odd QB who's a runner. I think like Lamar Jackson, Haynes King, who just came out of Georgia Tech. I think he's a running QB as well, and we might find that at the top level, Trinidad Chambers might be more of a running QB. He's certainly got the skills to do it. Dante Moore is more like those old school pocket passers. He doesn't really have a run game. While he's athletic, he's an average athlete. He doesn't offer very much when he has to scramble, and that's not a slight against him, but it does close a little bit of the playbook, so teams will be aware of that. When he makes a mistake, I think it's almost like he takes a couple of plays off. It's like his head is still replaying the play previous. I think he needs to sort of start putting those plays to bed a bit better. I think if it's first and 10 and he throws a bad throw, he's a 2nd and 10, and he's still thinking about that previous throw, and it's affecting that second throw. And I think that needs to be coached out of him. My old man used to absolutely throttle me. I hated my old man at games because he just used to. That was one way of just clearing my head, because my old man used to shout at me something chronic when I was playing ice hockey or playing British, European football. If I made a mistake, the loudest man on the sideline was my old man, and he wasn't shouting words of encouragement. He was telling me how much of a dick I was for making that mistake, and I quite quickly left that mistake in the background and moved on. So I think Dante Moore needs to improve that. He needs to put that to bed and concentrate on the here and the now more when he's made a mistake. Like with Manning, he needs to improve his short game. I think he needs to be a bit better at reading, and throwing that shorter pass. Don't be afraid to throw the shorter pass. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, that's Dante Moore. So just quick recap. You've got Darian Mensah at 6, Julian Sayin at 5, Trinidad Chambers at 4, CJ Carr at 3, Arch Manning at 2, and Dante Moore at 1. These will change. I'm not gonna give you an update every month or whatever. This is just my preseason ranking, and I won't do another ranking like this till end of the season. We will have some mocks and everything else, but I will watch a year's worth of tape before I start moving this around. So that's the quarterbacks, and we'll get on to the running backs. Right, let's get on with the running backs. So much for half an hour. Right, okay. Running back number 6, Relic Brown of Texas. 5'9", 195 pounds. Ran for 1,141 yards, 6.1 average yards per rush, and that's 4 rushing touchdowns. That is actually his career stats to date, not his 25 stats. In essence, all the QB stats were for last season, whereas these stats are their career college stats. Brown had 2 years at USC, poor man, and then last year had a featured role at Arizona State. He will spend his 4th and final year at Texas. Excellent speed, especially over longer distances. He suits jet motions and swings because while he's got a good speed, top speed, he's not the quickest off the line. So if you can find those plays that already have him in motion, the swings and the jet motions, where he is already up to speed when he takes the ball, that's where his skills are. You know, coaches like Mike McDonald at Seattle and Shanahan at San Francisco, these guys that use motion a lot, they are the sort of coaches that will love Relic Brown. When he's free of traffic, when he's broken a tackle or there's no one near him, bye-bye, he is gone. The speed in the free space is insanely quick. He's consistent, bangs out performance regularly. At ASU, he was an absolute star, and I can see why Texas recruited him. It will suit him as well because with 2 years at USC and a year at ASU, he's got he can now have a top year at Texas, and hopefully that'll improve his draft stock. He is a little undersized at 5'9", but he's a big 5'9", if you like. He takes the hits well. That being said, despite taking hits well, the fact that he's taking hits will affect his longevity. In the NFL, you've got that trend of running backs are a dime a dozen, and while the good ones you sign and you keep, the other ones you just tend to run them for the 3-4 years you have them and then get rid of them. I don't particularly like that trend that's in the NFL. I think loyalty should be rewarded, but I understand the way of the world. So I don't know how long he has at the top level, but the fact that the more hits he takes, the less he will the more he will spend injured, the less time he will spend on the field, and therefore the less of a career he will have. While he can run, his receiving side of the game is not great. We talked about with CJ Carr, we talked about how he had Jeremiah Love on, and he was able to rely heavily on Jeremiah Love's both running ability and receiving ability. Relic Brown is not a receiving running back. He is a running back. So to improve his draft stock, he needs to improve the receiving side of his game. We talked about motion and space and how that's where he's best. If you can bottle Relique Brown up and not give him that space to break, he's very ineffective. He needs that speed, that move, that moving start, if you like. And if he doesn't get the space in which to run, he's not an effective player. While he has speed, every other side of his game needs improving. At 5'9" and only 195 pounds, he's small. He needs to be careful between the tackles. And as I mentioned, I think where he ends up will be a big tale as to how effective he will be at the next level. Moving on, running back number 5, we have K1 Lacey out of Ole Miss. 5'11", 200 pounds, 1,567 rushing yards to date, 5.1 rushing yard average with 24 rushing touchdowns. Lacey led the SEC in rushing touchdowns in 25. His debut season at Ole Miss last year was good, but when he jumped into the league at Missouri, last year was his first year at Ole Miss. The year before he was at Missouri, he attracted eyes then. So he's still at Ole Miss. He's back at Ole Miss for another year. He nearly went to LSU. He nearly followed Lane Kiffin to LSU, but at the last minute he changed his mind and decided to stay at Ole Miss. So they will benefit from that. He's durable. Never missed a game in 2025. And when you think about how punishing that position is, to not miss a game, kudos to that. He's got great balance even after he's been hit. Whether that is upper body or whether that is lower body adjustment, I'm not entirely sure from the tape. I can't tell properly. But the general balance of when he's free and then also when he's contact, he does distribute his weight well. Of his 1,500 yards, over 1,000 of those yards have been yak yards, yards after contact as opposed to yards after catch. So yeah, he's got strong legs. He doesn't have the speed that Relique Brown does, but he does have the power. So power to speed conversion. I'm not a mathlete. He does need, like with the Relique Brown, he does need to improve the receiving side of his game. That will, if he doesn't improve that will affect his draft stock at the end of it. He's dropping too many balls, too many fumbles, too many drops, and he needs to cure that from his game. It's a crucial coaching year for this. The way, with his power and his strength, I liken Lacey to a hammer. It is just bang, 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 and there's no real finesse. There's no dancing around the contact. There's no, Lacey is just smash through it, and if you can't smash through it, you stop him in his tracks. So he's a proper sort of hammer style running back. Problem is at the pro level, that's a short shelf life. So he will need to improve. But I don't think this draft is going to be a year of running backs. Whereas we saw Love and Price go in the first round, this last draft, I can't see any of these running backs being a first rounder. Maybe one. depending on how this season goes. But certainly 6 through 3. I don't see any of these guys being first rounders. Moving on to number 4, we've got Nate Frazier out of Georgia. 5'10", 210 pounds, 947 rushing yards, 5.5 yard average with 6 rushing touchdowns. In high school, he was a standout sprinter, top of his school, top of his state, I believe. He's settled into the Georgia rotation, but the thing with that is, as you rotate through the running backs, yes, it's pro and pro loss, because by being in rotation, he's not taking as many hits, but he's also not playing as much. So there's less tread. There's more tread on the tire because he hasn't been used as often, but there's less tape to show for it. So Nate Frazier will have more durability than both Lacey and Brown, but he's got less tape to view. His second season at Georgia, just gone, was cut short due to injury. So that is another reason why he needs to see more action so that we can see more tape. Top speed, constant performer, reliable. His background in catching, I believe he used to be a wide receiver in high school. So his catching background makes that side of the ball significantly better than the other two, and does make him a dual threat running back, as we mentioned Jeremiah Love being one. Downside, as I've just mentioned, one, he hasn't got as much tape because he's a rotational player. He's a workhorse. He's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. He's quick, but he's not quick off the line. Same to Relic Brown. So I think he needs to improve that initial burst of speed off the line. But yeah, he's where he is in my list because he is a dual threat as opposed to the other two who are pure runners. But he does need work. He needs to add more snaps. He needs to add more production. It's great having top end speed, but you need to get off the line. He needs to improve that. Ultimately, all these issues that he has are developmental. They're coachable. He needs to listen to his coaches, and I think he is probably a running back that will benefit from another year, especially if he hasn't been worked as hard because he's been in a rotation. So we'll see. Maybe he's not out this year, but we'll see. Moving on to number 3, Mark Fletcher Jr. at Miami. 5'2", 225 pounds. Shorter than the 6'2". Sorry, why am I reading a 6 as a 5? 6'2", 225 pounds. 1,192 rushing yards, 5.5 yard average, 12 rushing touchdowns. Mark Fletcher was, I think he was my 4th running back to come out last year. He may have been number 5, I'm not sure. He was draft eligible last year, so this will be his last year in college football. And he chose to stay at Miami for his senior year, having lost in the championship final. But he can be proud of how he played in that natty, because his performance alone was probably deserving of a national title, but it wasn't to be. I take flack on the college football podcast for the fact that Miami got in ahead of Notre Dame, and I'm not going to bring that argument here. There's just me. So yeah, Miami deserved to be there. It was Alabama that didn't deserve to be there. So Mark Fletcher, good speed through weight ratio. He's tall, and he's a viable passer. Like with Nate Frazier, he does have a pass game to his skills. The way he's built, his actual frame, wide shoulders. He's built for that power, that K1 Lacey style hammer style run. So he's consistent. There's a reason why he was my number 4 running back last year. Take the top 2 out because they were in a different league of their own. He was my top. He was my 4th running back last year. He's my 3rd running back this year. He could be my top running back. If he has a great year this year, he could well be my top running back this year. He does need to improve his catching. While he is a viable receiver, it does need improving. And he needs to play more downs. He's at the moment he's playing because of his ability and his size and the style of play. He's playing 2 downs. He needs to be a 3 down back. And yeah, that's why he's not ahead of these next 2, is purely because he, at the moment, for what I see, he's not a 3 down back. Moving on to number 2, we have Ahmed Hardy out of Missouri. 5'10", 206 pounds, 1,649 rushing yards, 6.4 yard average with 16 rushing touchdowns. A lot of people, from what I can see, have Ahmed Hardy as their number 1 running back coming into this college year, and that's fine. He played at Louisiana Monroe in 24 before transferring to Missouri in 25. He's a fantastic pass protector. He's a violent runner. 1,200 of his 1,600 yards are after contact. That's 72%. Both as a freshman and as a sophomore, so at Louisiana Monroe in 24 and at Missouri in 25, he had back-to-back 1,300-yard seasons. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Great runner, powerful runner. He can protect in the pass game, but he does need to improve the receiving actual side of his game. There's one thing that I am concerned about, and that's his anger and his temper. You can rile him up, which costs him in penalties. So he needs to be taught or needs help in managing or channeling that. Because at the top game there will be players who will rile you up and niggle you and goad you, and if he can't keep his anger and his temper under control, he's not going to be much use to anybody. So that needs working. He's not that fast. That is another concern. We talked about how these guys sort of 6'3", they all had good speed. Hardy's not that fast, but he is powerful. He is big. He uses his size to his advantage, but he's not gonna run away from tackles. Away from football, he sustained a gunshot in May of this year. I don't have any information as to how he is now, but how he has recovered and his availability now will be of interest. I don't think, as far as I know, he was not at fault for the gunshot. I don't think it was anything untoward, but that is gonna cause some issues. Like with Mark Fletcher, he's not always a 3-down back, and that needs improving. Yes, he's flexible. Yes, he's maneuverable, but he needs to improve his speed. He's talented. He's a workhorse, but for me, I'd be reluctant to take him in the first round. I think Ahmed Hardy is a second round back. Hopefully he has a good last year. And if he doesn't and he chooses to stay in college, then so be it. But Ahmed Hardy for me is number 2. And as I said, moving on to number 1. A lot of people had Hardy as number 1, and that's fine. It's a personal point of view. For me, my number 1 is Jaden Bow out of Florida. 6'1", 231 pounds, 1,170 rushing yards, 5.3 running yard average with 8 rushing touchdowns. Bow or Bohr, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Bow had committed to Arkansas before flipping to Florida in 24. He was their number one workhorse in 25. And he has proved his ability as a 3-down back. And that's probably, to be fair, what pushes him to the top of my list above Hardy and above Fletcher, is that ability to be a 3-down back. He's physical. He's got a powerful frame. Like with K1 Lacey, he hammers into contact, and he uses his power and his strength to gain yards after contact. His running style, the way he chooses to run, he protects the ball really well. He tends to put his body between the challenge and the ball, as opposed to being in a position where the tackler can punch the ball out. He tends to try and sort of almost like roll with the challenge to protect the ball with his body. He's very patient. I think this comes down to because of his power and his strength and his frame. He's very patient about waiting for a lane to open up to run in. If you watch, he receives the ball and he just waits that half second just to see where the avenue is going to be. Is it going to be between the left tackle and the left guard, or is it going to be between the left guard and the centre? Or is it going to be outside of the left tackle? It just gives him that momentary split second to have a look, and I really do like that. Doesn't fumble the ball. No fumbles last year. It goes back to ball security. He's fantastic ball security. Like with everyone, he does need to improve the receiving side of his game. While he's not a dual threat running back per se, if he can improve that side of his game, it does open up more avenues. He's good with swings, he's good with the screens, but he needs to improve. The way he's built, the size he's built for volume. He will give you all that power and all that strength until he's empty. So if you come to me and say I've got Bow at 1 and Hardy at 2, right, great. If you've got Hardy at 1 and Bow at 2, so be it. But yeah, I've rushed those running backs because we spent a lot of time on the quarterbacks. But that is our first episode. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for joining me. As I said at the beginning, this pod is a love for me. I absolutely love the draft, and I will do my very best to deliver what I have in as best a way as I can. Next week we're going to discuss the wide receivers and the tight ends. All the links are below. If you want to get in touch with me, by all means, please do. I'd love to chat with you and you want to bounce an idea off me. You want to tell me what you think. That's fine. Cool. I'm all for that. And I will try and give you the best of my knowledge. Ultimately, if there's something you want me to cover, if you hear something or you hear of a player and you want to know who that player is and what he's about, hit me up, let me know, and I'll look into him. I'll do some due diligence on him, and I'll try and give you an honest opinion. If I like him, I like him. If I don't, I don't. I'll try and give you a reason why. So that's my show. Until next time, thank you. And you are now on the clock.